I'm Catherine Kane's the name. I'm from the Centre for Learning Technology in Trinity College Dublin, and I'm going to talk to you today about an e-moderating activities workshop that I teach in Trinity. The workshop came about because academics were coming to me telling me they wanted to use discussion boards and blogs and chats in their courses. They wanted their students collaborating, they wanted people sharing and talking to one another, and they wanted the students working in groups. And the slide will move now in a minute. They had introduced a lot of these tools already in their courses, but the students weren't really participating. They weren't interacting with the tools, and they didn't know why. So it was a bit confusing for them. So I said, well, you know, it's not really enough to provide the tools. You really have to think about your own skills as an online teacher, and how are you going to get that horse to drink that water and stick his head in that bucket. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do. So I suggested they come along on my e-moderating activities workshop, which is taught completely online. I based the workshop on the research work of Gilly Salmon and her 5-stage model. And I built the course in WebCT. So the course was put together. First of all, I gave them a link to Gilly's research in case they were interested in having a look. And then the course got broken down into the 5 stages. In the first stage, they got to introduce themselves and to reflect on what it was they were expecting from the course. Went on to stage 2, where they were identifying themselves with an online identity. At level 3, they were starting to develop some teaching skills, so they were writing things like welcome messages, they were looking at writing summaries and weeds. Then we went on to develop an activity that they could put into their own course, and finally I stood back and stopped being a moderator, and they became the moderators, and they had to work as a group and come up with a new statement. I also gave them a coffee room space where they could work outside of the 5 stages if they wanted to talk and give out about me or whatever, and I also got them all to do a course evaluation at the end. Each stage of the course was set out identically. First of all, the objectives for that particular stage were highlighted. Then I'd give them a number of activities that I'd expect them to partake in and finish. I'd ask them to reflect then on their own learning, give them a different question on their reflection, and I'd supply them with feedback. So after running the course a few times, I had 35 academics that had completed the course. This is our Trinity academics, very bright, intelligent looking people. And I emailed them and asked them to let me know how they were getting on. And as normal from bright, intelligent Trinity academics, 10 of them replied. And out of the 10 that replied, 4 of them had already started to implement these technologies into their teaching. And the other 6 commented that, you know, they were thinking about it and they were working on the ideas. It was under consideration. So I asked them what had they implemented, if they had implemented anything, and they mentioned things like using discussion boards for problem solving, using discussion boards for peer mentoring, or, oh, I now know what I can do, so I'm really thinking hard about this, you know, it'll happen. I also asked them how taking the course had influenced what they thought about e-learning, or whether they looked at e-learning differently to how they looked at it maybe before taking the course. And this was a good response. 8 of them actually said yes, it had influenced them, and they did think differently about e-learning now than what they had thought at the beginning. I asked them about their own outcomes, what it was they had achieved, and I thought it was quite positive because the things that they mentioned were understanding, more awareness, the need for more preparation, and also the realisation that this was going to take a lot of time to do. On student feedback, I only got 2 replies. One person had managed to survey their students and had got very positive results, and the other person had just their own observations, which had been positive as well. I asked them what they thought was innovative about this type of e-learning, and you know, they said things like, oh, it's more engaging, there's a lot more class communication going on, and also that the activities were embedded better into what they were learning in the classroom, so it was all quite positive as well. On the question of whether or not this was going to influence their teaching, you can see I got lots of replies here. Again, the time issue was an issue for them. They were saying, oh, it's going to take so much time. But then there were positive things as well, like they felt more creative, confident, reflective, and so forth. They all agreed that they saw this as the way forward, and I got some comments like, oh, I never knew you could do this kind of thing in WebCT, because they'd never kind of thought how they could use the tool, or I'm surprised at the level of interaction you can get. From working as a student in the course, they said it really opened up their eyes to what the issues and the problems their students might be having. But they also said they realised now that they still had to teach, even though they were putting content up online. It wasn't going to work automatically, but maybe they needed to think about the new skills they needed. They all said they pulled their hair out, they screamed, it was really difficult, you know, complained about all of the problems. But they did agree that if you followed the good practice and the 5 stages, you were less likely to fall over. You were much more likely to get your students engaged with the activities and the tools that you were providing them with. But absolutely nobody caught a fish. Their fishing skills didn't improve at all. So that's more or less it. That's the end. And this is the first time, and all my friends in the audience will tell you that I've shut up after 6 minutes.